Hi, everyone. I'm Lea Symonds, a technical support rep here at SUMO Scheduler, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our 5th webinar hosted by our team. Today, we have an exciting session lined up where we'll be looking into the SUMO admin features. I'm joined by Angela McKnight, our Customer Success Director, and she'll be leading us through the demo. For those of you who aren't familiar, SUMO Scheduler is a Salesforce native appointment schedule Salesforce native event and appointment scheduling platform that takes the headache out of booking meetings and scheduling events. In doing so, this enables companies to focus on developing customer relations that drive growth and getting some extra time back in your day. By the end of today's webinar, you'll learn about the SUMO features, admin features, and you'll be able to make your job a little bit easier. You will have learned where these settings are located and how to utilize them for your organization. And last but not least, you'll have the opportunity to engage our SUMO support team directly for Q&A. Speaking of which, we'll be using the chat functionality with the Zoom meeting to address any questions that you may have, with a bit of help from our SUMO support team. Please feel free to ask any questions at any time, and we'll do our best to answer them. If we cannot get to your questions, we will post the Q&A along with a webinar recording after our session. All right, Angela, let's get into the fun part and show everyone the SUMO admin features along with some of the limits that are available.
Okay, thanks, Lea. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do, guys, is go into the SUMO admin settings. So here I am in my demo org in the SUMO admin settings. And the first thing that I'm going to go over is some features that are available to you guys that you may or may not know exist. So the first thing that I'm going to do is go here to general settings. And the first one here that we have is the participant scheduling. This is going to allow you to schedule with non-Salesforce records. So if you're ever in a situation where somebody says, you know, I want my spouse or my brother or my sister to be added to the appointment, you'll now have the ability to be able to do that just by typing in their email address and clicking enter. I went into this feature in full detail in our very first webinar that we did. So if you want to see this, you can always search for it on our knowledge base or take a look at that very first webinar that we did where I went over this feature. The next one here is SUMO admin notifications. If you get your SMS messages through SUMO and you want to be notified when your text message reminder balance is running low, you can put your email address here. And if you wanted more than one, you could just separate them by commas, and you can add email addresses here. So that way you can get a hold of your account executive and let them know that you need to get some more SMS messages. There's a Google Maps integration here. So if you're a customer that's either going to your customer's locations or you would like the map to show when you're doing the in-person locations with the online scheduler, you'll need a Google Maps API key. It's really easy to get one. There are some knowledge-based articles available on how to get it and what needs to be enabled and the pricing structure. But this is where you would add that Google Maps API key, and then that would allow you to search on the invite manager for offsite locations. It would also allow offsite scheduling for the online scheduler and also show the map for the online scheduler as well. Ghost user settings are here. So within SUMO, we give you the ability for ghost users. Most of our customers are using ghost users for rooms or resources. If they need a room or a resource to have a connected calendar, they'll get a ghost user. But within Salesforce functionality, those users are set up as chatter-free users, and they can't own an event record. So you'll need to have a default event owner here. It can be any SUMO user. It doesn't have to be an admin. It can be any user that's going to be the default owner of those events. That ghost user will still show as the host. They just won't own that record. Some event settings here. So within SUMO, we give you the ability to keep canceled Salesforce events, keep canceled SUMO events. So if you have events that are canceled, if you're allowing cancellation of your appointments, you can decide to keep them. So that way you can still report on them if they're canceled, because within standard Salesforce functionality, if they're canceled, they're then deleted. So then you can't report on them. So if you're not one of those people that want to keep the canceled Salesforce because it kind of bogs down the calendar and the way that it looks, you can choose to keep the canceled SUMO events. So that way you can still report on those canceled appointments. Some notification settings here. If you want to disable the email update notification when an event is updated. So if an event gets updated, this is specific for SUMO events. If you want to disable the update notification or disable the sync when an event is updated. And then right here, some global buffer times. Within SUMO, we give you the ability to do user buffer times, global buffer times, and service buffer times. So right here is where the global buffer time lives. Just know that there's levels to the buffers. So user buffer time will always override the global or the service. The user buffer settings live in the SUMO user settings. The global live right here in the general settings of the SUMO admin settings. And then the service buffer times live in that service record. And when I pop that open to show you something a little bit later, I'll point out where those service buffer settings live. And then right here, you would just add that pre-buffer or that post buffer to your meeting. This will apply across the board. So within the SUMO user settings, you have the ability to add buffer times specifically for invite manager processes and online scheduler processes. So for this one, it will apply across the board. And then if you want your buffer times to overlap, or if you don't want your buffer times to overlap, you would go ahead and disable that. Some reschedule limits. This is where the global reschedule limit lives. Within SUMO, we give you the ability to do a service skill reschedule limit as well. And when I pop open that service skill later on for something different, I'll point out where that lives. And maybe you just don't have it on your page layout, or you're not in an upgraded version that has that available. But here you can set a limit, how many times that appointment can be rescheduled, and then a custom error message that customer would receive if they tried to reschedule that outside of the limits. Okay. Another thing that I want to go over that's over here on this side, if I click on calendar connector here, I'm sure many of you are aware of this here, because every time you do a sandbox refresh, you have to come in here. But right here, you have the connections, so you can see all the calendars that are connected in your org. So they're listed in alphabetical order, and you can go through and see if they're the Salesforce calendar connection, Gmail, Outlook. Just keep in mind, if for whatever reason a calendar has an error, you won't see that from this screen. You'll only see that in the SUMO user settings. When you go to that calendar connection, it could potentially say error. So if you're looking for if someone's connected, or you just want to disconnect them quickly, you can come here and do this. But if you're looking for an error for maybe a reason why their availability isn't showing accurately, you'll want to go to the SUMO user settings and check that calendar connection. In the settings here, this is the steps that you follow with a sandbox refresh or a production deployment. And then these settings here as well are connecting you to our availability engine. A calendar sync tool. If you're using a calendar sync tool like Einstein Activity Capture, you'll want to enable this feature so that duplicates don't happen. So when you're using a third-party sync, what happens is that third-party sync is reading the information from Salesforce and taking it to your external calendar. And depending on how you have it set up, it's taking it from the external calendar over to Salesforce. So if SUMO's doing that, you have the potential to get duplicates. So if you enable this feature, what's going to happen is SUMO's going to propagate those events to the Salesforce calendar. And then your third-party sync will pick it up from the Salesforce calendar and put it on the external calendar. The alternate name, we have this feature. It was added, I think, in SUMO 14. But with this feature, you have the ability for the names not to be displayed. So some of our customers don't want the full names of their employees displayed when people are booking appointments. They might want it to just have, say, their first name, or maybe they just want it to say support rep or customer service rep or something to that effect. If you enable this feature, there'll also be a field. You may have to add it to the page layout on the Salesforce user record that will be SUMO alternate name. And you'll have the ability to give that person a different name that's exposed when someone's booking an appointment with them. If you're using Microsoft Exchange, there's some Exchange settings here that you'll need to access if you're using Exchange. Another new feature that was added in SUMO 18 is the utilization report. So I'll run through this really quickly with you. But here again, it's in the SUMO admin settings under analytics. Right here, I can go ahead and choose my date range. I can choose my slot duration. I can do a host lookup. I can choose a specific host that I want to see, or if I leave it blank like this, it's going to show me all of the hosts. How I want this information grouped by. If I want to see subtotals and grand totals, I can reset the report. I can run the report and I can export the report if I wanted to, say, export it into someplace else and manipulate the data, or import it into a different warehouse or something to that effect. So right here is what the report's going to look like. So you've got your host name and then your dates. And I chose to have this grouped by day. That's why you're seeing it here. So in this first column, what you're seeing is the total available minutes for this host for this specific day. Your total slots available is going to be this 30 minutes divided by the total available minutes is going to give me how many slots are available. Your total booked minutes is going to be how many appointments were booked for this host on this specific day. Total used slots is how many slots were used. So that's going to be your total booked minutes divided by this is going to give me my total used slots. My total unused minutes. So how many unused minutes were for this specific host for this specific day. My unused slots, same thing. It's going to take this duration that I chose up here, divided by this is going to give me those unused slots. And then your other busy time is going to be anything that's on that external calendar, that source calendar. It could be lunch, it could be an internal meeting, something to that effect. And then it's going to give you your utilization percentage. And right here is a legend. If I went over that a little bit too quickly, or if you want to go back and watch this video to see what all of those different columns mean, but there's also a legend that will give you some additional information. Okay, and then scrolling over here on the side, this side panel over here was brought in for SUMO 17. So if you're not upgraded to SUMO 17, you might not see this. But right here, it's a quick link to our knowledge base, a quick link to log a case with our support team, to book a call with our support team if you're Premier or Premier Plus. If you want to ask a question, this will take you directly to our chat feature right over here in the corner. And another cool feature that we've added is grant account login access right here. So for any of you that have ever logged a case with our support team, one of the first things that we ask you is to grant us login access. And you have to come up here and then you have to click settings and then you click grant account login access. We've taken all that out of there for you. So you just click here and it's going to take you right to that section where you can grant us login access. It's also going to give you your org ID and then the current version of SUMO that you're on. So you can easily see all of that information that the support team always asks you. Okay. Another quick thing that I'll go over real quick, if I come up here and go to this quick setup, below the fold down here is an FAQ section that's got, you know, the links to our knowledge base, the link again to log a case, some helpful information down here. So if you have some additional time and want to check this out, feel free. There's a ton of information down here for you. Okay. And then the next thing that I'm going to go into is going to be some limits that you have available to you within SUMO. Some of these might be something you already know exists. Some of them might not be. But the first one that I'm going to do, because I'm in the SUMO admin settings, is I'm going to go ahead and click on online scheduler. And I'm going to click edit on one of my existing. You can do this on a new online scheduler. If I click edit, and here on the global tab, if I scroll all the way to the bottom of this page, you'll see some scheduling limits right here. So I can limit the number of appointments that participants can book. And I can do this if I don't check any of these boxes over here. It's going to be just for this online scheduler process. I can apply it to all online schedulers, all manually scheduled, and all invite links. So I can limit the number of appointments by weeks, days, or months. So just keep in mind that's going to be calendar week and calendar month. And I would be able to limit how many appointments that participant could book. And then I can have a custom error message down here. Keep in mind that all manually scheduled appointments are going to be your new appointment. And if I go to schedule an appointment with that participant, I'm going to receive this custom error message. If it's through the online scheduler, the customer won't see this error message. They just aren't going to see any availability for that specific day or that specific week or that specific month. It will just move them to the next week or to the next month. That's when they'll see availability. Okay. The next one I'm going to go to is SUMO user settings and show you some of the limits that are there. So if I click on user availability and then I click settings, right here you have the ability to set limits, and you can set the limit by hours in a day or appointments in a day. And I can do this by online schedulers and invite links, or just online schedulers, or just invite links. And this is going to be how many appointments that specific host can have in a day. Just keep in mind that this only applies to online schedulers and email and invite and appointment links. This does not apply to the new appointment schedule now functionality. The next one I'm going to go to is the SUMO services/skills. Go ahead and click on this service. One of the things that I'll point out to you is here's your service buffer time, and then here's your service reschedule limit and reschedule message. So within SUMO, we give you the ability to add limits on the service for the host. So if in your org right up here, you might see details and then related. In my org, I have my related list down here. So you would see that service skilled offered up here in a related tab. So if I went ahead and either created new or clicked on one of the existing ones, I have the ability to set a daily, weekly, or monthly limit for this host, Angela, for this specific service. So once they've reached that limit, there would be an error message that would pop up that would basically say, if you're using new appointment, that would say this person has reached their limit. If I'm a SUMO admin or a SUMO manager, I have the ability to override that limit. But for same thing for the online scheduler, the customer would never see an error. They just would not see any availability for this specific host for that day, that week, or that month. The next thing that I'm going to show you is appointment link limit. So if I come here to one of my contacts, I can do this in appointment links, and I can do this in email and invite. So if I come here to email and invite, I have the ability right up here up top to limit the number of appointments. I can do this by participant or by link. And if I leave it blank, and it's going to be unlimited, but I can put a limit here for the participant, how many they can book. And then one other one that we have is an event limit. So if I'm here on the SUMO multi-calendar and I go to create an event, and if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, if you have this section enabled in the process, so in my SUMO admin settings, in my event scheduler template, I can enable to have this section hidden. But if I have it not hidden, then you'll see this section right here. But this is max registration per attendee. So how many times can an attendee register for this event? And then an error message, a policy message that they would see if they tried to register past that limit. Okay, so definitely gone over a bunch of things today pretty quickly. Some of you may have known those features already existed. Some of you may not have known, but back to you, Lea.
Thanks, Angela. That was an awesome walkthrough. So in conclusion, we've covered how organizations like yours can leverage SUMO's admin features to simplify scheduling needs by utilizing some of the features that you may not have known even existed. We hope that you found our webinar insightful and that you're excited to explore SUMO schedulers, SUMO scheduler, I apologize, explore how SUMO scheduler can transform your team's customer engagement dynamics. Remember, our team is here to help you every step of the way. Now it's time to take action and make the most of what you have learned today. To revisit this content or share with your team, our webinar videos are available on multiple platforms, including SUMO Scheduler's YouTube channel, sumoscheduler.com, and our SUMO CEP knowledge base. If you do have questions or need assistance or encounter any challenges while implementing our solutions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our support team. We are here to help you succeed. Lastly, and certainly not least, Be sure to join our next webinar. It's an opportunity to deepen your understanding of SUMO's variety of use cases and explore the latest features that streamline the scheduling process for your organization. Thank you once again for being part of today's webinar. We look forward to partnering with you on your journey to scheduling success with SUMO Scheduler.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your day.
Yes, thank you.